Welcome to another episode of Candid with K. And with us today we have our co-host, Joanne Joseph, and our special guest, Mr. Tecoyo Bridgewater from
Well,
Fusion Superplex. But before we go on, just remember to like, subscribe, and share. We'll be looking for those comments. And we want to get into Tecoyo at this time. So, firstly, thank you for coming here. Thank you for taking the time, spending with us. But we want to get straight into, firstly, Fusion Superplex, right? We know who you are now,
mhm.
but what was Fusion? How did the Fusion come about?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me here today, both John and Kieran. Fusion came about from a visionary idea, honestly, from one of my business partners. And my business partner is also my brother. One day he was visiting New York, I think it's back in 2003. And he went to Times Square and he went to the IMAX movie for Spider-Man. He walked in there and he saw it and he was like amazed at the grandeur of the entire facility. So he came back home, and during that time myself, I was in law school. Okay, and we sat down, but I was also working at Atlantis at the time, if you remember that. And he sat down and he told me about the idea. He said that the idea is a grand idea for us to bring something like that to the Bahamas. And so we sat and we had that discussion, but it was very expensive. Okay, I think it was about $1.6 million just for the IMAX license at that time. So we put that to the side. But that was the actual visionary beginning of it. We also was attempting to bring another entertainment idea to the Bahamas, but Leslie Miller beat us to that punch. It was a bowling alley initially. So a few years had passed, and my brother, being my partner now, Carlos Folks, reached out to the IMAX Corporation again, and then we found out that there had been a reduction in the license. So we said, okay, great, wonderful. We told a number of other individuals about the idea because I believe that partnership is very important when you are dealing with trying to progress, especially in a place like the Bahamas. You need that unification of individuals with that same like-mindedness to get together, and it makes it a little easier for you to succeed when you have the necessary amount of capital, the necessary amount of brains coming together and trying to solve a problem. Okay, that's something big on, I think, any entrepreneur's plate, is finding a problem, solving that problem, finding the right partners to help you solve that problem. That's what I always say. You either find a problem and you be the first to fix that problem, or you find the problem and you be better than the next person at it. Now, we know that we could have been better than the next individuals with the whole IMAX concept, or the whole entertainment concept. Because, of course, Fusion Superplex is not just movies, you understand? But the IMAX was the staple attraction that we use, that we use in order to get that dealt with. So we got together, we had our problem, we had our partnership. Now we needed the most important thing, which is the funding. Okay, so we put our minds together, we put our pockets together, we started this, the fund, right? Whereas we would each put a certain amount of money in this fund over the course of the time, and the fund got a certain amount of money. And what we did was we used that to go out there, and we used that to go do as much research and put in as much sweat equity as we could put in order to develop this particular idea of the entertainment facility. Now, Fusion, as you see today, started off from just the IMAX, as well as, I think, an arcade. But it developed over a period of time, whereas we started to say, okay, we can put this in here. We did some research and we said, okay, maybe we need to have something like a soft play center. Maybe we need to have a facility whereas persons can come and have their birthday parties. We may need some additional theaters for individuals when they call this, there's a certain customer frustration when you can't get into a movie. You need something else that is there in order for you to feel satisfied with the company. So this is why we had the additional theaters there. And we realized that if we had the concept like the hotels, whereas most of the hotels that are all inclusive, We want you to stay on the property. And this is why we identified the rest of the facility so that when you come in there, you won't have to leave to go somewhere else. You can get your coffee, you can get something to eat. So we put all that into our business plan. So we have a business plan, we have partners, we have some money. So what we did is we went down and we reached out to IMAX and we purchased the license for the IMAX, right? And then we took that and then we started to go and do our funding rounds, whereas we met with people, family members, of course, first,
Right.
and then we expanded the idea. And then we met with about 200 individuals.
Wow.
In
200.
about 200 individuals, I think over the course of about maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and everyone said no. Everyone said no. Everyone said no.
Wow.
Everyone said
200.
200 persons. We actually put about 100 people, not 100 people, but 50 people in one room at one time, showed them the entire plan that we had, and every one of them said no.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah, that's a dream killer right there.
But we were some dogged individuals, okay? I think it was based on the fact that where we came from. We were a part of a program called Quick Star. And Quick Star, I think the older folks may call it Amway,
Okay.
right?
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Amway has a bad name, but shouldn't have a bad name. Amway is an exceptional program that teaches young individuals to be independent business owners. And it taught me this because I remember growing up, my brother was a part of it, the same brother who brought the idea. He's a trendsetter. He threw a book to me one day. I was just being me as a young teenager, and he said, read the book. The book was Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay, this is the very first book I read. Right, Robert Kiyosaki. So I read the book and I saw it and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can actually be something more than I think that I can be. Because growing up, especially from the area that I grew up in, East Street area, sometimes there's a ceiling that individuals have growing up because you only think that you can get to this certain point. Exactly.
Yeah.
But the book expanded my mind. It was like, okay, you can be a business owner. You can be a millionaire. You can do this. And it just opened up my mind. And this is why I say that the program that we were in, it actually educated us. It actually fed us because every month I had a book to read, seminars to go to. There was those audio tapes that they used to send to us where you would listen to it constantly. You are a winner. You can do this. You can.
Oh, wow.
So you brainwash yourself to believing that you can do something more. So we took that. And that became a part of us. So the attitude of getting those no's, we're like, okay, then we'll just move on to the next one. And we moved on to the next institution individual, and they said yes. So after all those no's, we got a yes. And this is why it's very important for young entrepreneurs, young individuals to know that you have to be obsessed with your idea, especially if it's a good one.
Powerful word. Obsessed.
Obsessed. I get that from Kobe Bryant because Kobe Bryant he said you have to be obsessed. You have to get up earlier. You have to do more than the next person in order to be better than the next individual. So we were obsessed with this idea of doing better. And so with the individual who agreed, saw the vision, and invested also into the company, we had the necessary funding in order to start building. Now you think at that time that it's peaches and cream, now everything is great, we got the money. No, that's when the
Okay, that's what hits the fan.
the fan. You understand? And so we go through the whole process of trying to find land. That was the major issue that held us back for about 2 years.
Talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is where Fusion is, because from what I see, it is a nice location.
Mm-hmm.
Very, from the optics, very attractive.
Good view of the lake.
Right, you know what I mean? You get to sit out on the terrace, you get to view the lake, you get to see the cars passing. But was that the original plan for Fusion?
No, that was actually happenstance.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it was. What we did was we modeled our business with an educational aspect to the business. Okay, it's called Project Empower. Whereas we would bust the teens and bust the primary school age students from their school bring them the fusion, and they would be impacted by the education of our IMAX educational content. And the IMAX educational content really focuses on a lot of things that occur in nature, things that occur around the world, like hurricanes, like underneath the sea, like in space. And we were trying to get the schools to make it a part of their curriculum. So because they do it in the United States, where individuals are bused from their schools, they come to IMAX, they're shown a presentation, they go into the IMAX educational movie, and then after they have treats, and then they can go back to school. They can they can learn about different stuff. But it would be on a grand scheme, because if our theater is about 5 stories high, so it's an experience in itself.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what we were doing was we were trying to say, how can we use this now to go and get some crown land?
Okay.
So we tried to go a number of different locations. We put in an application with the ministry. It was not successful. And I think the worst part about it was the waiting time for me. People were believers in the fact, because we already had the funding, so they were believers in the fact that it may be beneficial to the teens, it may be beneficial to the schools, but the timing that we had to wait for the application to be rejected, I think, hurt us.
It was a long time.
Wait time, but at least 18 months.
Wow.
18 months, because
post finding the funding.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
post. Because I tell you, we started this journey in 2003 was the conceptualization of the idea. 2008 was when we all got together, but not until 2013 did we actually get our funding. Okay, so it was a number of years.
After that, you applied for Crown Land.
Yeah, and we did not get it.
18 months later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah.
Wow.
But in any event, no. But it is what it is. Because I do understand that the government has to make certain decisions. Okay, so it was fine. So we took that, moved past that obstacle, and then we started to look elsewhere in the private sector, and we identified about 4 different areas before we just one day saw somebody standing on a piece of land, pulled up and had a conversation, and then somebody said that this individual owned the land, and called them and say, hey, it wasn't even on the market. The land wasn't on the market at the time, which was the happenstance aspect of it. The gentleman heard our idea, he believed in it, and he said, okay. And he's very pro-Bahamian, and I love that. He's pro-Bahamian. He was like, well, this is what we need: young men to build up our country, to stimulate the economy, and for us to create jobs, as well as places for young individuals, as well as all Bahamians to come and to enjoy themselves. So that's how we got the land, literally on happenstance.
So I would like to know, then, what were the other options? If that was happenstance where it is,
yeah,
which is a good happenstance,
mm-hmm.
Could I ask, what were the other options?
You mean the other locations before we got that?
Right, the other locations.
Oh, the other locations was actually, if you are coming around the roundabout before the Red Cross.
Okay.
Right, there's some land there on the left-hand side. If you hit the roundabout, there's land on the left-hand side. It would have been ideal because there was an easy in and out for it, nice and spacious, and it's on the edge of a busy area. And normally that's where businesses place a lot of their malls and their IMAXs in the United States. Yeah. And then there were other areas around there, especially the one next to where they're building the actual baseball field right now.
Oh.
The baseball field is yeah. It would have been good because it's a busy area, because you want to get businesses like that in busy areas where it's very visible, where you can attract the customer because they're continually passing. Now, I will admit that when we found the new property, we had to go back to the drawing board, because now the drawing board requires us to make adjustments to our original architectural layout, because we had created the layout for another area. And so we had to go back to the drawing board. And that's why now you see that where altitude is, the restaurant and edge is, that wasn't in the original drawings. So we had to adjust. And that's another important thing for young business owners to know, how to pivot or adjust when you either reach an obstacle or you have to look at the climate and you just have to make decisions. Whereas it's like, okay, then I see what's happening. I need to make this move, even if I was going to make that move before. So that's what happened there. So pivoting is very important, you know. All of my principles as it relates to, I think, business and success, at least most of them, begin with the letter P.
Yeah. Progress.
Yeah.
But before we go deeper into the journey of fusion, I heard you use the word idea a lot, right? And with the word, what comes to mind is you stated that with your business partner now, your brother, that he would come with their ideas, and you use the word trendsetter, right? So I wanted to know, is there are there a lot of ideas that get flinged? Is there some type of documentate, what is it? You know what I mean? Is there like a book or something that you're just that you and your brother would just list ideas and go after them, or how does that happen?
Well, what we would do is the brainstorming, and it's not. And my apologies. My brother, he was the initiator, and then we brought another individual on, as well as my other brother, who was also a partner in it. And we would just sit down and we would just have conversations, brainstorm, and then the other individual, he was what we call a research guru. So he would go there and he would look at the wider global audience towards ideas that were cinema related, entertainment related, and then they would bring it back, and then we would just sit down and have a conversation about, okay, maybe we should do this or maybe we should do that. But I think that the greatest creation or the fruit bearing is when you are faced with with an impediment or an obstacle, and then you start to ask yourself, okay, if this is a problem, how can we solve this particular problem right now? And that generates an idea, or that generates a desire to find something, and that desire to find something creates the idea. And then now when you are able to share either the problem or what you want as a solution, this is where you speak with individuals, partners, or not even the partners. You can go there and find something on YouTube, find something somewhere else, and then that sparks the creation of the ideas.
Okay, let's fast forward. So the business is started, right? What are some of the challenges you guys faced with, because you don't just build it and they come. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's some challenges that you guys had to work through and everything like that.
Yeah, well, the first problem was the construction. I'm not even to the operation is yet. When you deal with the construction, the pumps, you have to import everything in. It's very expensive. So I would always encourage individuals who are going down that path to make realistic budgets. Realistic budgets as it relates to all of the material, all of the consultants, everything. You have to make a realistic budget. I would always say, if you think it's going to cost X, make your budget X squared. I'm going to be honest. That's how you should go into that. But definitely, as you come into the operation of the business, sometimes I think it can be difficult to hire the right individuals. Sometimes I think that may be an impediment. Whereas you find that you need to find the right people in order to give the necessary amount of service that you want to give. I think that most businesses in the Bahamas right now are faced with that particular issue, right? When you get past finding the necessary amount of employees for the business, then now you have to think about all of the other things. And I think what is very important and missed by a lot of individuals are the expenditures that goes towards the electricity bill. I think that we need something different. We need something even better than solar right now. I think if we can find something I think there are certain things out there right now which can help you to reduce your cost, the cost of your electricity.
Nuclear.
Yeah, something. Nuclear. I don't think they're going to be a nuclear plant in the Bahamas, but I think that that is a big issue.
Yeah.
Okay, the cost of electricity is a big issue right now.
This is the number one cost for most businesses, running costs.
After payroll.
Yeah.
So payroll cost is number one. And then after payroll costs, you're looking at a huge electricity bill, especially, of course, in the Bahamas right now. That's what we deal with. So I would say look at those things definitely when you are starting to create any business.
Right. So I know that because I'm liking the words like partnership, right? And that's from the example that you give when it comes to hiring the right people and even when it comes to cost, understanding how to budget, right? Now, when you were initially starting, you stated that you have a research guru, right? So I'm guessing, or you could let me know that this research guru would have helped when it comes to understanding what budget is needed, right? But it leads to the question I really want. It's a burning question, and I would like to oblige me a bit.
Let me see if I can answer this question.
Yes, right.
I'm a lawyer. Remember that.
And then we get to that, so persons understand exactly what you do for the company.
Yeah.
But in the initial stages when you were building, right, and it came out, it was five. I think it was 5 founders.
4 originally.
4 originally, right? The next question that came was, or the next statement was, okay, well, Shane Gibson would have been a part of your team. You had like Sabah, so you had a lot of running rumors, right? What do you say? What do you say to those rumors?
Well, I actually said something about these rumors originally. I think back in 2018, we had a broadcast, and it was just simply indicating that the individuals who were in the room at that specific time were the founders, and they were the ones who had contributed at that particular time to the organization, the creation, as well as the funding of the project, and no other individual at that time, being either Shane Gibson or Sabas, give respects to both of those individuals, were not a part of the company, and they held no shares in the company.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so it wasn't burning. I was fine.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Persons wanted to ask. So,
yeah.
But now that we speak about operation, right? Spoke about some of the challenges. Now, it has been noticed, right, that Rev partnerships, right? Rev, because initially it was Rev IMAX, correct?
No. See, you have to understand in regards to it. No. Let me. I'll give that, because that's a part of the whole process as well.
Okay.
The whole process of the model that we model ourselves after is the model outside of actually Thailand. Okay, because the European model of entertainment facilities is different from the American model of entertainment facilities. In America, you normally have a movie cinema inside of a mall, right?
Right.
Or inside of, how can I say, strip mall or inside of a mall. They're very rarely independent. Standalone, right? But if you go to places like in Thailand or in European European countries, you have these facilities. Whereas you have these experiences inside of the cinema, but you have a number of other experiences that surround the cinema. Okay? In America, it's just about the movie. In the European as well as the Asian countries, it's about the experience. Okay? And with this experience, it's as if when you create the standalone, individuals and the model is modeled after want to, how can I say this, be a part of the facility, even though they are not owners of the facility, or even that's how we come to the place of sponsorship.
Right.
So
yeah,
exactly. And so what we do as a company is we are actually a marketing company, but we're also a company. Yeah, we're also a company that advertises other individuals, and that a part of that is our sponsorship program, right? And that is where, when you see Rev on the building,
Yes.
Rev was the individuals who had partnered with us originally in regards of when we first conceptualized the idea. And so they were our first advertising, marketing, sponsor brand that we took on. So when you see things like that, and we have a number of others as well, but they were the big boys in that regard. Okay, and so, and a number of other countries like Trinidad and Tobago, you would have Digicel, right? IMAX. Now, Digicel doesn't own the facility,
Right.
but they're the sponsor for the facility, and so it becomes a Digicel IMAX. And remember now, IMAX is only one aspect of the business. You have other aspects of the business. IMAX is just one standalone. 40X is also a product and a standalone. And then we have our restaurants. Go ahead.
Which is different from IMAX.
Yes.
Different license.
Yes. Different license, totally different company, totally different experience. You know, the 40X. The 40X is where you go and it's about the environment. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Don't carry drinks in the chair.
No, I mean we have the necessary cups with the lids on them, but it is an experience. So we thought about it like a carnival ride as you watch the movie. You know, for a four-dimensional experience. Okay, and then of course we have Altitude, our restaurant above, and then we have the Edge, and then we have Reboot, our arcade. So all of them come together to make they fuse together to make the fusion experience. Yeah.
So you guys really look forward to thinking about all of that.
Right. So now, and I'm glad you brought that up because it leads to my next question. So how does fusion make its money? Just in its simple form. How does fusion make money? Is it off of the movies? Is it off of concessions? Like, what is your model and how do you know?
Well, I mean, the business model is similar to any other I would say entertainment model, whereas you make money off of the persons coming to watch the movie, you make money off of the food and beverage, you make money off of the ancillary products that we have there for you to partake with. So really and truly, it's a gambit of different products that we provide, and so we make money off of the customer coming in there and spending money on those different products.
Right. Speaking of money, you guys were in the papers a few years ago with the whole NIB situation. Would you like to go into that and try to explain what happened? Because sometimes the media, they do add and remove some facts, and I think that kind of put a little taint on your name, But if you would like to go into that and clarify.
Well, I just think it was a misunderstanding, and the individual herself, who was actually, or the group of individuals, I just think that they were, how can I say this, misinformed. Maybe that's a better way I can answer that question. Misinformed about the actual issues that were happening. We know as Bahamians that NIB, or National Insurance, will always be there to assist the employee, no matter what. No matter what, if you're an employee and you made contributions to the National Insurance Board, they will be there to assist you at the end of the day. Okay? Now, individuals who are making certain claims, I particularly don't like to go into those type matters, but I would like to just say that Fusion Superflex has always been in a position to want to do what was best for the employee. Because during that entire time, during the COVID, the National Insurance Board was actually calling on Fusion to assist with the distribution of the benefits to the staff during that. But these are the things that they're not going to talk about. So throughout the entire period of time, now there was some hullabaloo at the beginning, but through the entire period of time, Fusion Superflex were the ones distributing the benefits to the employees, assisting National Insurance Board with that endeavor. Wow. Okay? But
yeah, you wouldn't hear that.
You're not gonna hear that aspect of it.
That's right.
But we are definitely about ensuring that our employees receive what is necessary for them. But of course, sometimes all businesses have issues.
Right.
All businesses have issues. You know?
Those were some tough times during COVID. I guess that was unforeseen, but that was probably one of your biggest roadblocks or obstacles that you guys had to overcome.
The worst. The COVID-19 pandemic, being that we were just open shy, I think maybe a year before that. And we didn't even get in our stride as yet because, we had Dorian that came through and reared his ugly head. And then COVID comes along. And it was detrimental because we're an entertainment facility. Our whole entire business model is about getting people to come out of their house. And now you're saying to us, okay, there is going to be no social interaction. Stay in your home. So it was detrimental. We lost $1 million in inventory.
That's an inventory.
In inventory because you think, because if you remember, the Prime Minister came on and he said it would be 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
The original aspect was 2 weeks.
Yes.
Now we're thinking, okay, it's not going to be 2 weeks, it may be 2 months because this was in March and we all sat down and watched it. And then 2 months comes and we're saying that, it's going to be extended. And then now extended further. And then as the extension came, now we're thinking, the inventory that we had in our refrigerators and our storehouses and all of the necessary items we were supposed to sell, now they're expiring. And so a year and 6 months later, we now have to throw everything out.
We don't even think.
Well, not throw everything out. Let me don't say that.
We don't even think about that, like business models like you guys. I mean, I didn't even think about the inventory.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
And things expire.
Yeah.
Popcorn, no spoil.
Yeah,
no.
That's all you think.
That's right. That's all you think about.
Yeah. Well, we try.
So much more.
Let me just reframe what I said a few minutes ago. We tried to salvage as much as we can during a period in time. When we realized, what we did was we said to our employees, but rather than let these go to waste, if anybody wanted to come and partake. And so we had a drive, in a sense, where a person's going to come in and take the stuff that were still good. But of course, before that, it was just a period of, okay, we'll wait to see.
Yeah.
But there came a time where we just had to do it. But we lost $1 million in inventory.
Wow. Now that's a big hit for a new company.
Yeah.
Huge.
Huge.
You guys recovered, I guess you had the funding, so you had some sort of cash to continue. It was still rough. Now, what we had was an astute CEO who recognized these things, and the CEO is my older brother. As you know, I have a lot of respect for my older brother. He recognized what was happening and made certain decisions that were able to keep us afloat. The board as a whole, the board of directors, we all sit together and we just had to make certain decisions to ensure that we remain viable, and it worked. and it worked, but now we are still in the process of moving through, because you have to remember now, all through the entire pandemic, we created no revenue. But we had to keep electricity on in the building every night for the entire 16 months of our closure. I think it was 11 months of our closure, and I think 5 months of our reduced occupancy. But electricity had to be on because we still had to ensure that the theaters would not become moldy. We had to ensure that the meats that were in there at the time were still refrigerated. We had to ensure that the facility was protected from crime, because we had that security in the building. So the electricity still had to be on. So that means that the water still had to be on. And that means that, exactly. So that means we were still incurring costs through the entire pandemic. So now you come out of that without any revenue at the time, but you still have your expenses. So it was catching up at the time. Yeah. But we feel as if we have made some extremely pivotal and intelligent business decisions in the last 3 to 6 months that is getting us back on track.
And barring any unforeseen circumstances, I think that we're going to be pacing forward and upward, moving forward into the next year.
So, with that said, what would you consider your timeline? I mean, I know it's by estimation. What would you consider your timeline for Fusion to move or to operate as normal? And we're speaking not only with the offerings, making sure that everything that Fusion offers is available, but also when it comes to being able to, the financial flow is to a level that you consider profitable for the company.
Well, I think that all has to do with the global community, as well as that has to do with our government and the mandate as it relates to COVID. Because COVID is still rearing its ugly head. We have to understand that we still have mandates. Yeah, we still have things that are preventing 100% occupancy in certain areas. We still have individuals who may not want to come out. We still have the mask mandate. I think that when these things are removed, then the climate is going to be a little different, and persons who may not have wanted to come out because of the fears of COVID may come, as well as when we have an increase in, as we are seeing now, visitation to the Bahamas from our neighboring United States or the other countries. That's going to trickle down into the hotels, and then when that trickles down to the hotels, it's going to trickle down to the other areas, and then those individuals who have the necessary amount of capital are going to want to be entertained, and so they're going to come out. They always say that even in bad times, the movies is a great place to go. In good times or bad times, the movies is a good place to go, and Fusion provides that movie experience along with all the other necessary experience for all of our visitors as well as Bahamian citizens.
Wow. So let's talk about the future.
Okay.
Where you guys going in the next 5 years, even 10 years?
Oh, we have grand plans.
It seems that you guys are very forward thinkers, innovators, and I know there's something boiling. So
there's something boiling. There's something boiling. There's always something boiling because you cannot rest on your laurels. Like COVID really put us, took us back a few steps, but now we're progressing, and there's always something on the drawing board to take it to the next level, because that's how you have to be. You have to continually think progress. You have to continually think, what can we do next? But right now we're working on getting Fusion back to the Fusion standard, but we are on the sidelines working on some new and interesting things, and I believe these new and interesting things are going to be a hit for the Bahamian people.
That's very cryptic.
Yeah.
I haven't said anything yet.
You know.
Keep it close. But I would like to know, because earlier you stated that, if you find what the problem is, then you either be the first one to solve it, or you do it better than the next one. Right? Being that, from my knowledge and experience, Fusion is the first, organization or operation that exists the way it is. Right, multi-attraction, all in one place. What would you say Fusion's footprint is on the industry?
Fusion is the industry. What are you talking about?
That's what
we have one. The other is closed now. We have no other.
No, but I'm talking about even in the aspect of like, were you off like? What you offering, right? As I said, yes, the next one is closed. You understand, right?
I ain't saying it's your fault, but I'm just saying.
Right,
no. See, because, and that's one thing I'm gonna answer your question, but I'm gonna get to you right now. When you say you're not saying it's our fault, in fact, despite the fact of us not having the major competition, I never like to see the closure of a business, especially any small or medium-sized business in the Bahamas, because there's always a trickle effect. Small, medium businesses actually help stimulate the economy, right? And when any business closes down, there is a ripple effect to it.
Yeah.
There's an additional burden on the government because the individuals may no longer have the jobs. There's an additional burden because the revenue from the electricity, the water, and all the other incidental things that business would have had now, other companies don't get that.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying right now? It's a burden on national insurance because now these people are unemployed. So the closure of a business, to me, I will never celebrate it, ever. I think that person should always try to encourage business ownership as well as support Bahamian business ownership because it helps the country in the whole. So that's one aspect of it right there. But to get to what you're saying right now, in regards of our footprint, I believe that Fusion came out with a great statement. Now, years have passed, whereas there is a certain period of time, whereas when a new cinema comes into play, it's only a short period of time before that may go out of business. I mean, the other theater that was before them may go out of business, and then you would have that one. What happened to Shirley Street Theater?
Yeah.
It happened to R&D Cinemas, Galleria. You understand?
Yeah.
Right? And I believe because that was an older type model, right? What we did was we switched up the model and we took the best part of the movie experiences and placed it into Fusion along with the other ancillary aspects of it. So I think that we have a strong market position as opposed to other companies. Now, what we need to work on and what we need to continue to do is to continue to innovate and not rest on the laurels, as well as we have to improve the customer service and ensure that our customers are happy with the experiences right now. And I would always encourage individuals, if you have an experience that is not the best experience at Fusion, always reach out to the management, speak with a manager, let us know what the issue is, because when I mean manager, I mean those on the ground. Let them know what the issue is, because sometimes we're not there. See, I'm not there at Fusion right now, but my employees are there and they are servicing customers. And sometimes those customer experiences may be not the best customer experiences, but I may not know that. You understand? And the only way that for us to know it is if you go and you make it known to management, and then management will take it up to the directors, and then they may take it up to the officers, and then we may get an understanding of what's happening. But I always encourage individuals to go and let us know what the issues are so that we can fix it. I'm from Atlantis. I'm from customer service. I worked at Atlantis for 10 years of my life while in law school, okay? And so I'm all about customer service, and I'm all about being aware of how the customer is being treated. So if my employees are not giving you the best service, please report it to the manager so we can make it better, okay? Now, to get back to answer the specific question, I believe that we may have a good position on the competition, because it, as a business owner, like my mind, as I think of a business owner, it would not be, how can I say, financially feasible to bring another cinema to the Bahamas at this particular time, seeing that Fusion is here, because we're new, we're innovative, and you have to do so much more in order to come and grab that market share. Okay, so well, that would be my answer to the question, as honest as I can make it.
Are you guys licensing out your restaurants, or are you operating in on your own?
Well, all of the restaurants currently at Fusion Superplex proper are Fusion Superplex owned and operated. Yeah.
That's a big operation.
It is a big operation.
Yeah, it's a huge operation.
Takes plenty skill.
Big operation.
Plenty skill to be able to pull that off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even now that I know that you don't want Fusion to be just considered movie.
No,
right?
it's not.
That's why you always speak a lot about all the other attractions. And you speak a lot about customer service. You speak on, your experiences, or just the experience of your guests, of your patrons. How big then is branding, or what are your contexts or concepts of branding, and how important it is now for Fusion?
I think that it is extremely important, because I think that we are established as the place to go now. I think that when we first got, even though there's a misconception as it relates to it being this very expensive place that you can only go to at on certain times, no, it is not expensive. If you come there, we have a variety of offerings, a variety of offerings at different prices, so it's not as bad as people make it out to be. But I think that the brand has been established as the place to be, as well as we've been established as the place where you're going to get that different experience that you've experienced from previous entertainment facilities. As well as I think that despite minor issues, it's a safe place to be.
Yeah.
Safe and entertaining.
Well, when I visit, I see a lot of high school kids, they hang around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So usually when high school kids and children around that age hang a lot, it usually shows that it's a safe area because parents won't allow their children to go to certain areas. And then also cost-wise, it's probably not that expensive because if they could afford it, you know what I mean? Because they're usually on a budget. So
yeah. And I think that how can I say this? I think that a lot of parents may find fugitively flex, very, very necessary, because it is a place whereas you can go and you can send them down in the arcade, or you can send them to the play center, and then you can go upstairs and you can grab a drink, or you can put them in their movie, and then you can go to the VIP with your spouse, and you can drink on some champagne whilst you eat a steak and some lobster in our pure VIP theaters.
Wow.
You understand?
Yeah.
So
I need to experience that, by the way. I've been in pure VIP yet.
I've been in pure VIP. My wife especially.
Yeah.
She loves it when they put up. Even though she falls asleep.
Yeah.
But she loves that the environment, the service. So it's something I think you should try.
Yeah, man, you should
I have
definitely
a
try.
son. He's 11, so I always in 40 yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like he's the theater guy. My wife she's not really.
You have to bring out.
person.
You have to let her experience it. Trust me, when she experiences the VIP, she's not gonna want to go into any other theater.
Definitely should try it.
Yeah.
So going, having your experiences or what you went through from 2003, because that is a long. I'm sorry, I have to say it.
Mm-hmm.
That is a long time. From conceptualizing to actually seeing it come to fruition. It's like, how did you and your team stay focused? I understand you used the word obsessed, but even at some point, like
after the 200, 200.
I'm sorry,
I would have been like, maybe this is not a good idea.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this right now. 2003 was the birth of it because it was a spark, but we moved away from that. And I think that it was brought back up maybe in 2007. I want to say 2007, whereas we re-engaged with it, right? And then at that time, we were all in our separate lives, doing the things that we need to do. I went to law school, I graduated, became an attorney. My business partner, my brother, he went to business school and he obtained his degree. And so we were still living our lives, but it was still there. And so what we would do, we would periodically get together and we would say, okay, let us build on this a little more. So over the course of time, we started to build. And then when we brought the other individual who I told you was the research guru, he came in, and then we all just started to take it even more seriously because we started to put the ideas together. So at that point in time, I think that it was more about, okay, we're here, but we all want to be financially free. So we need to get there.
Okay.
So the destination was always a part of the mentality, okay? If you have a destination, if you have that goal, all you need to figure out is how to get from here to that goal, no matter how long it takes you. And I always tell people, I say, you are going to die anyhow.
Right.
The time is going to pass anyhow. You might as well try to do something and accomplish something that you really want to accomplish, right? With the passage of time. 5 years ago, if you had started something, you would have been finished right now. But you decided 5 years ago, I'm not going to start it.
Yeah.
You know what it's...
What's the saying? I used to listen to this guy. I can't remember his name. said life is risky, so you have to take risks. It's so risky that you're not going to get out of it alive.
That's good.
So better take risks.
That's good.
You know? And even what comes to my mind is beginning with the end in mind, because like you stated, I already know where the destination is, and this is what we're going forward. So we just want to. I listened to the part of research, and it hit me because a lot of us, especially young amateur entrepreneurs, right? Persons just coming into it. We at times don't understand the importance of research. You just say, like you say, hey, I think that's a need. I just going into it. I'm just going to start pouring my funds, my money. This is what I think. This is how I think this should be. So, could you speak on like how did the research truly benefit as you all continued your journey?
Well, I think that it was extremely important, even the missteps, because there was research done and then there was missteps, but there were also things that are celebrated. And I think that, because there's something in business called SWOT analysis, right? Yes. Where you have to go and look out there for the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities, all that, right? And all of the threats in the market. So what it does is now you have a position after you have done all of the necessary research where your position is stronger because you have understanding of what are your threats, where can you find the opportunities in the market that you're trying to tap into right now, right? What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? So going out there and figuring out who is your competition is important. Going out and figuring out how many other people are selling the product this way is important. Going out there and trying to figure out what is the need for K-Ron in his daily movements or in his weekly activities that we can get him into Fusion. Why would he come into Fusion on a weekday rather than on a weekend? All of that is necessary information to know how the consumer thinks, okay? And if you can understand and know how the consumer thinks, if you can understand what the consumer wants, then you will have a loyal customer. And so when we talk to persons who are starting businesses right now, and you talk about research and you talk about doing your homework, it is so necessary because it is the way that you're going to generate your revenue. Why do you think that advertisers pay Facebook so much money? They pay Facebook so much money because they realize that Facebook has the information that they need in order to create greater revenue.
They create a profile for every user. They know what you like. They know what your favorite color.
Just think of it like that. Think of it like that. Every time you click on Facebook or every time you click on Google, there's something that says, this is what this individual may like, may need, and then it pops up. You ever say something near your phone or you ever type something on your phone and then you go on Facebook or what's...
Just open your phone sometimes
and it pops up. You understand? Akin that to business research right there. They're researching you. So that is why the individual needs to go out there and research the idea, research the business plan, research the necessary things for the business plan, and research the consumer, research the customer as best as you can in order for you to fulfill your end goal, which is bringing the customer in and giving them the best service you can give them.
Well, you talked about SWOT, with one of those being the S, which is strengths, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking to Tecoyo now. Mm-hmm. Tecoyo, the person, right?
Okay.
Not Fusion. Tecoyo, the person initially. What strengths do you? First, I know you did a degree to get to be an attorney, right?
Uh-huh.
You got your law degree.
Mm-hmm.
How does what you achieved? How does that assist or help or aid? The ideas that you and your I guess business partners putting together, or even the future. And
mm-hmm. Okay, me as an attorney, I would always say that becoming an attorney was very, very beneficial because I think that you should have on your team, always an attorney as well as an accountant. An
Okay.
accountant is important on your team because you need to know how to read the balance sheet.
Yeah.
Okay? Especially when I say on your team, I mean like somebody who is a partner. Having an accountant as a partner is very, very beneficial because he understands and he knows that the numbers, and so he can always be able to tell you to do this or to do that in relation to numbers, right? Or it's always beneficial to take some courses in accounting, right? Because the CEO, he also has a very great grasp on accounting, especially, I mean, along with the fact that we also have an accountant. But to get to the question being asked about myself as an attorney, yes, it was beneficial to the company because I was able to do certain things, as well as I was able to do all of the legal work for the company, and we did not have to go there and hire additional legal work or hire lawyers, as well as with my own critical thinking, along with the fact of who I am as an individual. It just was beneficial to the whole process. I'm a very argumentative individual sometimes. So you have to prove to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that a good idea? I don't know. Let's look at it from this standpoint. So all that is a benefit to the process of brainstorming when you specifically talk about the idea. Now, my presence as the chief legal officer, as well as, yes, that's what you wanted to say?
My next question.
Yeah, I'm the chief legal officer as well as I'm one of the directors. So I sit in the boardroom as well as I sit in the executive boardroom, in a sense. And so I'm there for the big meetings and I'm there for the even bigger meetings. Okay.
That's awesome, man. So
Very much.
I see you guys set the time. Each and every initial partner is family members.
Well, 3.
3.
Yeah, the other one.
Lawyer.
The other one. And then we also have the security individual. And then we have, the accountant is not one of the 4 founders.
Okay.
Right? Because there were 4 original founders, and then we took on some additional individuals who also believed in the product. And one of those individuals is also an accountant. Okay? Yeah. And then we have a security professional, and then I tell you the other guy, his name, he was the research guru. That's why I call him the research guru. Yeah. And so, the team came together. Now, there were originally, I can say about 8 of us originally. 8 of us originally started the idea and the partnership way back in like 2007. 4 of us from the original 8 remain now as partners in Fusion. The other 4 fell by the wayside, which is life sometimes. You may start off with people and sometimes you may not end with those individuals. So that's what happens.
And that's why you speak about pivot.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. People give up their dreams sometimes. And then they look back and they regret it. But sometimes I guess that's just life.
So I know you gave certain tips, pivot, partnerships, but what, as a final thought, what would you speak to our young entrepreneurs on, especially just summarizing in full, the different values or principles that you either learned or you had to continue to develop to get you to where you are now?
Well, I think that the number one word that I would use in order to garner success, I think in almost anything, is discipline. Like, I always say that discipline is more important than motivation. Okay, be disciplined in all that you do. Want me to tell you why you have to be disciplined? Because sometimes you're not going to feel like doing it.
Yeah.
But if you train yourself to be disciplined, it doesn't matter how you feel. And I think that is what a lot of the entrepreneurs have to take with them right now. You have to write a business plan. You don't want to get up and write your business plan. You don't want to go there and research to do what's necessary to get what is needed into this business plan because you feel bad today. You don't want to go and make that call because the first 5 people hung up on you because they don't want to talk to you anymore. You don't want to get up and walk there to see if you can make this sale. You have to be disciplined enough to know that eventually something may happen. So I think discipline is the most important aspect of it. But if I conceptualize all of the principles and I could just say it to like in one spiel right now, I would say you would always have to have a good plan, right? You need to find the right partners in order to see how you can develop this plan. And your plan may be, I want to be wealthy, I want to be a millionaire, right? And you have other individuals who may be like, okay, you know what? We want to be we're millionaires, we want to be wealthy as well. What is that problem that you're going to solve in order to get to the end goal of being wealthy? Create that business plan with your partners. Persist through all of the obstacles, all of them. Pivot when necessary, because there are going to be issues. All the time there are going to be issues. But you have to remain disciplined through all the no's in order to get through to the goal that you want to get through to. So, I mean, that's how I look at it. And really and truly, I lived it. And I'm still living it.
Based on your story, there was a lot of obstacles.
Yes. Tremendous amount. And there are still obstacles. So I don't want the people out there to think that there are not obstacles, because there are even more obstacles now than then. It's just at a different level. Yeah. You understand? As we move forward, especially with the pandemic. But always, you just have to want it so badly. You have to just be obsessed. As I always say that word. Yeah. You have to be obsessed, because you have to want it so badly, and you have to know, and you have to make up your mind. Like, you have to brainwash yourself to say that I'm not doing anything else but what is needed to get to this goal. Now you got to ensure that you have a reasonable plan. Because a lot of people, they go there and they want to say that they want something that may not be attainable, reasonable, or feasible. Mm-hmm. But if you have a reasonable plan, I believe that once you work that plan as best as you can, eventually you get to where you need to get to.
I would say thank you very much, Mr. Bridgewater, Tecoyo, because you've dropped just nuggets upon nuggets upon nuggets for us, along with all of our viewers. We do appreciate you taking the time again to, giving us a better insight on the journey, not only for Fusion Superplex, but even when it comes to you and your development as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, as an attorney. So we do thank you very much. And as stated, please, Fusion is just not about the movies. No. There are other areas that are there. Go on, enjoy it. I'll tell you, try Pure VIP and Sub-Zero, the ice cream. Yes, love Sub-Zero, just want to tell you. I just make sure. And if you, at any point, see Mr. Bridgewater, I'm sure you'll be happy for you just to stop by and say hi. So thank you again.
Not a problem. It was a pleasure.